Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to look at factoring quadratics, ax2 plus bx plus c. If you've completed the previous grade 10 videos where we factored x2 plus bx plus c, today's lesson will be easier for you. So we're going to go through a lot of examples and you get better at it with practice. So we're going to go through multiple examples and then you'll have a lot of practice problems for you to practice after. So let's dive right in. Example 1, factor. So 2x squared plus x minus 3. So we're going to rewrite that here, 2x squared plus x minus 3. And we're going to look at the product of 2 and negative 3. So I put a little line here, it says p, so 2 times negative 3 gives negative 6. And then we put a little s under the coefficient b here, which is 1. So our s is 1. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to look for two numbers that when you make the product or you multiply together, you get negative 6. And when then you do the sum of the two answers, you get 1, positive 1. And so here we have 3 and negative 2. You multiply that, you get negative 6. You add it up, you get 1. So these are the two numbers that we're going to take. So instead of x, we're going to rewrite it as 3x minus 2. So that's where these numbers come in, plus 3 minus 2 like that. And so you notice 3x minus 2x gives 1x. So it's equal. We didn't change anything. We just wrote it a little differently. The next step is to say, okay, these first two items, we're going to put that into a group, plus the other two objects here, and put that into a second group. Notice the negative 2, the negative is part of the 2 here, so it's plus negative 2x minus 3 like that. And now we're going to factor, we're going to look for the common factor in each of these groups. So the first here, 2 and 3, no number in common, and then x squared x, so there's an x in common. So we factor out the x, and what's left is 2x plus 3 like that. And then we look at the second group here, and we notice negative 1 is in common. So we're going to factor that out, and what's left is 2x plus 3. And then now if we notice, we see that there's 2x plus 3 and 2x plus 3 like that. And so we're going to factor that out from each of those terms, right? This here has 2x plus 3. This has 2x plus 3. So we're going to factor that out. And what's remaining is x minus 1 like that. So this 2x squared plus x minus 3 can be factored as 2x plus 3 times x minus 1. And we can check it. We can go multiply here. We get 2x squared minus 2x plus 3x minus 3. Negative 2x plus 3x gives x like that. And so it is perfect. So whenever you're doing a test or an exam or anything like that, you can always check your answer when you're done factoring. Okay, example B here. So we have 4x squared plus 11x minus 3. So we're going to rewrite that here. So product 4 times negative 3 gives negative 12. And our sum is 11 like that. So we're looking for two numbers that when we multiply, we get negative 12. And when we add, we get 11. Right? You might think, for example, 3 and 4. But when you add it up, it doesn't work out. So you see, okay, 12 and 1. Oh, if negative 1 here, you multiply, you get 12 like that. You add it, you get 11. That's perfect. So 12 and negative 1. So we're going to take those numbers and we're going to rewrite 11x as 12x minus x like that. See, if we do that, we get 11x. So we didn't change anything. And now we're going to do our grouping. First two terms, the group here. Other two terms, group there, like that. 4x is in common here, so we multiply. We factor that out. What's left is x plus 3 like that. And now we have negative 1 in common. We factor that out. What's remaining is x plus 3 like that. X plus 3 is in common for each of these terms. So we factor that out. What remains is 4x minus 1. And now we're going to check it by multiplying. X times 4x, 4x squared, minus x plus 12x minus 3, which gives 4x squared plus 11x minus 3, which is what we were looking for. Okay, C, more examples. 15x squared minus x minus 2. So we're going to rewrite that here. So product 15 times negative 2 gives negative 30. Sum is negative 1 like that. So 5 times 6 gives 30. That's great. So we're going to put the 6 negative so that when we add it, we get minus 1. Multiply minus 30 like that. So we're going to rewrite negative x as 5x minus 6x like that. First group here plus second group there. First group has 5x in common. What's left is 3x plus 1. Second group has negative 2 in common. What's left is 3x plus 1. And so we have 3x plus 1 in each of these terms. We factor that out. What's left is 5x minus 2 as such. D, 6x squared plus 13x plus 6. So product is 6 times 6 gives 36. Sum is 13. We might say, okay, what about 6 and 6? No, that doesn't add up properly. 4 and 9, we add that up, 13, multiply 36, excellent. So this 13x is going to be rewritten as 4x plus 9x like that. First group plus second group. 2x is in common in the first group. What's left is 3x plus 2. 3 is in common for the second group here, so 3 times 3x plus 2. 3x plus 2 is in common for each. We're going to factor that out. What's left is 2x plus 3 as such. E, 4x squared plus 23x plus 15. Product, 4 times 15 gives 60. Sum is 23. So we're going to break up the product here as 20 times 3. That works. 20 plus 3, 23. Perfect. So these are the two numbers. We're going to rewrite them here as such. First group plus second group like that. 4x is in common. We factor that out. What's left is x plus 5. 3 is in common. We factor that out. What's left is x plus 5. X plus 5 is in common. We're going to factor that out. What's remaining is 4x plus 3 as such. F, 30x squared plus 2x minus 4. So in this particular case, there's a common factor to all of them, which is 2. So we're going to factor out 2 from all of these terms here. And what's left is 15x squared plus x minus 2. And that's what we're going to factor now. So we have product of negative 30, sum of 1. 30, we could do 3 and 10, but that doesn't work. So we could do 5 and 6, that works. Negative 5, because we add up to give 1, and multiply negative 30, that works great. So this x here is being converted to be minus 5x plus 6x like that. First group plus second group like that. 5x is in common, factor that out. 2 is in common, factor that out. 3x minus 1 is in common, factor that out. What's remaining is 5x plus 2, just like that. Okay, time for some practice. Practice number 1. From A to H, go ahead and pause the video and do these factors. Okay, we're back. So A, 3x squared plus 7x plus 2. Product 6, sum of 7. 1 and 6 are the two numbers that work out. So we rewrite 7 as 1 plus 6x like that. First group plus second group like that. X is in common, factor that out. What's remaining is 3x plus 1. 2 is in common, factor that out. What remains is 3x plus 1. 3x plus 1 is in common for each, so we factor that out. What remains is x plus 2. B, 5x squared minus 2x minus 3. Product is negative 15, sum negative 2. So 5 and 3 gives 15. Negative 5 to make it negative 2 like that when we add them. So negative 5 and 3 are our two numbers. So we rewrite this negative 2x as negative 5x plus 3x like that. First group plus second group like that. 5x in common, factor it out. 3 in common, factor it out. X minus 1 in common, factor that out. What remains is 5x plus 3 as such. C, 16x squared minus 2x minus 3. Product gives negative 48. Sum is negative 2. Negative 8 and 6 are the two numbers that meet that criteria. So we rewrite negative 2x as negative 8x plus 6x like that. First group plus second group. 8x in common, factor that out. 3 in common, factor that out. 2x minus 1 in common, so we factor that out. What remains is 8x plus 3 as such. Okay, D. 7x squared plus 4x minus 3. Product negative 21. Sum of 4. 7 and negative 3 meet that criteria. So we're going to rewrite 4x as 7x minus 3 like that. First group plus second group. Don't forget the negative is part of the 3x like that. 7x in common, factor that. Negative 3 in common, factor that. X plus 1 in common, factor that. What remains is 7x minus 3 as such. E. 4x squared plus 24x plus 35. Product gives 140. Sum gives 24. In this case, it's easy. 14 times 10 works. So 14 and 10 are our two numbers. First group plus second group. 2x in common, factor that out. 5 in common, factor that out. 2x plus 7 remaining for both, so we factor that out. What remains is 2x plus 5 as such. F. 2x squared minus 13x plus 15. Product is 30. Sum is negative 13. So the two numbers that meet that is negative 3, negative 10 like that. So we rewrite negative 13 as negative 3 minus 10 like that. First group plus second group. Don't forget the negative. X is in common. Factor that out. Negative 5 is in common. Factor that out. So we have 2x minus 3 in common for both. Factor that out. What remains is x minus 5 as such. G. 25x squared plus 20x plus 3. Product 75. Sum 20. 5 and 15 meets that criteria. So we rewrite this as 5 plus 15 as such. First group plus second group. 5x in common for the first group. What's left is 5x plus 1. 3 is in common for the other group. What's left is 5x plus 1. 5x plus 1 common to both, so we factor that out. What remains is 5x plus 3 as such. H. Product negative 30. Oh, actually, no, not yet. There's a 2 in common, so we're going to factor that 2 out. And then now we're going to do 2x squared plus 7x minus 15. So this product gives negative 30, and this sum gives 7 as such. So our two numbers are negative 3 and 10. So we rewrite that, negative 3 plus 10 like that. First group plus second group like that. X is in common, factor that out. 5 is in common, factor that out. 2x minus 3 in common, factor that out. What remains is x plus 5. And that's it. It's that easy. I'll see you guys in the next video.